In the summer of 2019, I bought land in an abandoned village by the river. It was supposed to be the beginning of something, a retreat for fishermen and hikers, quiet cabins by the water, trails through the forest, a place people could breathe. The land was cheap, suspiciously cheap, but I convinced myself it was just because the village had been empty for decades. No one wanted to live that far from the highway anymore. The buildings were rotting husks, their roofs caved in, windows like empty eye sockets. But the river ran clean, the forest was dense, and the air smelled like pine resin and cold earth. I thought I could make something good there. I hired a construction crew. The foreman's name was Victor, gray-haired, steady hands, 30 years in the business. He said the job would take 4 months. Tear down the old houses, pour new foundations, build 3 guest cabins by the water. Simple work. For the first 2 months, everything went smoothly. Victor sent me photos almost every day. Debris cleared, frames going up, walls rising. Then the updates stopped coming. When I called, he said there were minor delays. Supplies, weather, the usual. But his voice sounded thin, like he was choosing his words carefully. By the 3rd month, I drove out to see for myself. The site was quiet when I arrived. 2 of the cabins were nearly finished, but the 3rd stood half-built, skeletal. A few workers milled around, moving slowly, eyes down. Victor sat in the site office, a rusted metal trailer with a crooked door, shuffling papers and rubbing his temples. When I asked what was going on, he said they were short on men. Several workers had quit without notice. I asked why. He shrugged and said everyone had their reasons, but I could tell he was holding something back. "How many are left?" I asked. 5, he said, including me. The crew had been 12 when we started. I felt my jaw tighten. Victor apologized, said they were looking for replacements, but his eyes didn't meet mine. I walked back to my car, angry and confused. As I opened the door, one of the remaining workers, a gaunt man with a gray stubble and tired eyes, hurried over. He tapped the window. I rolled it down. "You're the owner?" he asked. "Yeah." "I want to quit," he said flatly. "I want my pay, and I want to leave." I asked him what the problem was. Bad conditions, pay issues, conflict with Victor. "The place," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "It's wrong here. We're grown men, and we don't sleep at night. I've seen a lot in my life, but nothing like this." "Like what?" I asked. He leaned closer. "Spend one night here. You'll find out." Then he walked away. I sat in the car for a long time after that, staring at the tree line. The sky was overcast, the river dull gray, the forest black as charcoal. For the first time since I bought the land, I felt uneasy. I decided to stay. Not just visit, stay overnight and see what was scaring my workers away. The next time I arrived, it was late evening. The site was dark, except for a single light in Victor's trailer. I knocked. He opened the door, and I smelled alcohol immediately. His eyes were red, his movements unsteady. He pulled me inside quickly and locked the door behind us. "You shouldn't be here," he said. There was an empty vodka bottle on the table, and a second one, unopened, beside it. I felt my anger flare again. "This is why the work isn't getting done? You're drinking on site?" Victor didn't flinch. "First time in 30 years, he said quietly. He sat down heavily and poured himself another glass. "Sit with me. I'll tell you everything." I didn't want to, but something in his voice stopped me. I sat. He slid the glass toward me. "Drink," he said. "It'll make it easier to understand." I hate vodka, but I took it. The burn helped settle my nerves, though only barely. Victor stared at the table for a long moment, then spoke. "We found bodies," he said, "under the houses. When we tore down the first one, we found a cellar. 2 mummified corpses inside, curled up like they were hiding. We thought it was strange, but then we found another under the second house, and another under the third. Every house had a cellar or a crawl space, and everyone had bones inside, people who hid there and never came out. I felt cold. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I was afraid you'd cancel the project," Victor said. "We'd already spent the advance. The crew needed the work, so we decided to bury them quietly. There's an old cemetery in the forest. We figured we'd lay them to rest there and forget about it." "And?" I asked. "We found a pit," he said. "Deep. Bottomless, maybe. One of the guys, Sergey, suggested we throw the bodies in and cover it up. So we did. Wrapped them in tarps, tossed them down. But we couldn't fill it. We tried. Threw stones, logs, dirt. Nothing ever hit the bottom. Just silence." He refilled his glass and drank it in one motion. "After that, things started happening. At night. Sergey was the first to go. Something came into the camp, grabbed him, and dragged him into the forest. The rest of us heard him screaming. We found blood the next morning, but no body. I stared at him, trying to process. What took him?" Victor's hands shook. "Something that shouldn't exist. Gray skin, no eyes. Just 2 holes for nostrils and a mouthful of teeth. And its arms. Jesus, its arms. Long, bent wrong, ending in hooks. Not metal. Bone. Like they grew that way." He looked at me with hollow eyes. It laughs. Constantly. A high, scraping sound, like nails on glass. I wanted to call him insane. I wanted to leave. But the raw fear in his voice kept me in my seat. Outside, the wind rattled the metal walls of the trailer. Victor glanced at the window nervously. "It comes every night," he said. "Takes one of us. Sometimes 2. The rest of the crew ran. Only 2 guys are left besides me, and they're hiding in the second cabin. Tonight, maybe it won't come. Maybe it's had enough." "Enough of what?" I asked. "Feeding," Victor said. Before I could respond, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, deliberate. Then laughter. Thin, wet, like someone choking on their own spit. Victor went pale. "Don't move," he whispered. "Don't make a sound." The laughter grew louder, closer. I stood and moved toward the window without thinking. Victor lunged at me, shoving me away so hard I hit the floor. "Get back," he shouted. The window exploded inward. Glass rained down. A long, curved hook, gray-white, slick with moisture, punched through Victor's shoulder and jerked him toward the broken frame. He screamed. The hook pulled him through the window like he weighed nothing, his body slamming against the jagged edges, tearing cloth and skin. Then he was gone. I lay on the floor, covered in glass, ears ringing. Outside, Victor screamed for help. His voice grew fainter, dragged toward the forest. I scrambled to my feet, looked through the shattered window. In the dim light from the trailer, I saw it. A tall figure, hunched and wrong, dragging Victor by the shoulder. Its legs bent backward at the knees. Its arms hung to the ground, ending in those terrible hooks. And it was laughing. I grabbed a hammer from the toolbox by the door and ran outside. The night was pitch black, the only light a weak glow from the trailer window. I saw the thing ahead of me, pulling Victor across the dirt. His fingers clawed at the ground, leaving furrows. I froze. The creature turned its head. No eyes, just smooth gray skin and a gaping mouth stretched too wide. It looked at me and laughed harder. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Victor's screams faded as the thing dragged him into the trees, then silence. I stood there with the hammer in my hand, shaking, useless. Finally, my legs remembered how to work. I ran to my car, fumbled with the keys, started the engine. The headlights swept across the clearing. I saw the blood trail leading into the forest. I should have left, but something made me follow. I drove slowly toward the tree line, tires crunching over gravel. The headlights caught the edge of the old cemetery. Crooked crosses, weathered stones, names worn away by time. And beyond it, I saw the pit, a perfect black circle in the earth, wide enough to swallow a car. As I stared, 2 hooks appeared at the edge. They dug into the dirt, and the thing pulled itself up from the hole. It stood at the edge of the pit, staring at me with its eyeless face. Then it moved. Fast. Too fast. It crossed the distance in 2 bounding leaps and slammed into the hood of my car. The metal crumpled. Its hooks punched through, one on either side of the windshield. I screamed, jerked the wheel, and floored the gas. The car lurched forward. I aimed for the nearest tree. The impact threw me against the seatbelt. The airbag didn't deploy. The car was too old. The creature's head cracked against the trunk with a wet thud. Its body twisted, trapped between the bumper and the tree. The hooks flailed, scraping the roof, gouging metal. I threw the car into reverse and backed away. The thing fell, broken, onto the ground. I didn't wait to see if it got up. I turned the car around and drove. I didn't return for weeks. When I finally did, daylight, midday, clear skies. The construction site was empty. The trailers abandoned. No sign of Victor or the others. The thing wasn't by the tree. No body, no blood, nothing. I went into Victor's trailer and found the notebook he'd mentioned. An old journal, water-stained, pages brittle. It had belonged to one of the villagers. The entries were written in cramped handwriting, dated September 1984. The writer, a 16-year-old boy named Andre, described what happened to the village. How a local man, quiet and strange, killed several children and hung their bodies on meat hooks in his shed. How the villagers dragged him to the cemetery in a coffin, buried him alive. How the grave collapsed into a bottomless pit, and how, weeks later, he crawled back out, eyeless, twisted, no longer human. How he hunted them, one by one, dragging them into the dark. The last entry read, "I'm going to try to run. It's my only chance. If I don't make it, let this journal tell people what happened here." I found a rusted bicycle outside one of the houses, lying in the weeds. He never made it. I sold the land for nothing, told no one the real reason. Sometimes I wonder if the thing is still there, waiting in the pit, or if it's somewhere else now, in another forgotten place, feeding on anyone foolish enough to disturb it. I don't know. I just know I'll never go back.